I was sitting in a coffee shop with my son and my daughter-in-law. While they went to the counter to settle the tab, a woman placed a blue box on my table and whispered, "You are going to need this tonight." Before I could even open my mouth to ask who she was, she vanished into the crowd. I quickly tucked the box into my leather messenger bag and headed home. When I finally opened it, my hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped the contents. Inside, there was a heavy manila envelope, a USB drive, and a handwritten note that read, "Marcus, record everything. They are going to make their move in less than 48 hours. But before I tell you what was on that drive and how this stranger knew my name, let me ask a favor. Leave a comment and let me know where you are listening from. I need to know that I am not alone in this, that someone else out there understands what it feels like when the danger comes from the people you least expect. My name is Marcus Ashford. I am 62 years old, and I own a freight logistics company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have 43 rigs on the road, properties in 3 different states, and a bank account that took me 40 years of blood, sweat, and tears to build. I have been a widower for 11 years. I have one son, Andre, who has been married to a woman named Tasha for 7 years. Up until that day at the coffee shop, I truly believed my life was in order. That Thursday afternoon, we had planned to grab lunch at Liberty Coffee House, a quiet spot in the historic district. Andre had called me 2 days prior to invite me out. "Pop, it has been too long since we really sat down and talked. Let me buy you lunch," he said, and it struck me as a bit odd because my son is not exactly known for spontaneous gestures of kindness, but I figured he was just trying to patch things up. We had been having some tension over the direction of the company lately. I arrived right on time at 2 in the afternoon. They were already there, seated at a table by the window. Tasha greeted me with that perfect polished smile she always wears when she wants something. Andre looked restless, his hands constantly moving, checking his phone every other minute. During lunch, we talked about nothing important. The humid Carolina weather, a trip they wanted to take to the Bahamas, some renovations they were planning for their house. But I noticed something. Every time I mentioned the business or money, the two of them would trade looks. Quick, almost invisible glances, but I caught them. I have spent over 60 years reading people. I know when someone is lying or hiding something behind their eyes. At one point, Tasha excused herself to go to the restroom. Andre took that moment to lean in. "Pop, we need to talk about something serious, but not here. Can we come by your place tonight around 9 o'clock? "What is this about?" I asked. "It is about your health and the future of the company," he said. "Tasha and I have been thinking about some things that could really benefit you." That sentence hit me like a bucket of ice water. My health? I'm perfectly fine. I hit the gym 3 times a week. My blood work came back excellent 2 months ago. I do not even take any heavy medication. Why was my son talking about my health as if I were a problem to be solved? Tasha returned, and the conversation shifted back to trivial things. 10 minutes later, they both got up to pay the bill at the far end of the shop. I was left alone at the table, checking my messages, when I felt a presence beside me. I looked up and saw a woman in her early 50s, wearing a sharp gray suit and dark sunglasses. Her hair was pulled back tight. I had not even seen her walk in. She held a blue box about the size of a shoebox tied with a white ribbon. Without saying anything other than that one phrase that still haunts my dreams, she set the box on the table. "You are going to need this tonight." "Wait, ma'am? Who are you? Why are you giving me this?" I managed to say. But she was already walking toward the exit with a fast, determined stride. I stood up to follow her, but right then Andre and Tasha made it back to the table. "Where are you going, Pop?" Andre asked. I looked toward the door. The woman was gone. I looked at the box on the table, my heart racing. "Nowhere," I lied. "I thought I saw someone I knew." I discreetly picked up the box and slid it into my bag. Tasha watched me with a curious glint in her eye. "What is that, Marcus?" "Just some paperwork someone dropped off from the office. Nothing important," I said. We walked out and said our goodbyes on the sidewalk. Andre reminded me, "Tonight at 9 at your place, right?" I nodded. They drove off in their luxury SUV, and I got into my car. My palms were sweating. I felt a weight in my chest that was not physical. It was pure intuition. Something terrible was about to happen, and that stranger knew it. I drove back to my house in the suburbs of Charlotte, a 2-story home I had designed with my late wife, Aisha, 30 years ago. I went inside, locked the door, set the alarm, and headed up to my study. I put the blue box on my mahogany desk and just stared at it for 10 minutes. I had to open it. What if it was a joke? What if it was dangerous? But the woman had known my name. It was 6:30 in the evening, and the sky was starting to bruise into purple. I took a pair of scissors, cut the ribbon, and opened the lid. Inside, perfectly organized, were 3 items: a thick manila envelope, a brand new used driveway still in its plastic packaging, and a note written in elegant, clear handwriting. "Marcus Ashford, what you are about to discover will change your life forever." Inside the envelope are copies of documents that involve you directly. On the USB drive, you will find audio recordings from the last 3 months. Listen to them carefully. Your son and his wife are planning something grave, and you are the target. They are going to act within the next 48 hours. Record everything that happens tonight. Trust your gut. You are not alone. A friend. I read the note 3 times. My hands were trembling. A cold chill ran down my spine. Andre, my own son, plotting against me? I tore open the envelope. Inside were copies of documents I recognized immediately. Life insurance policies in my name, the deeds to my properties, bank statements, and the will I had drafted 5 years ago, leaving everything to Andre. But these copies had marks on them, notes in red ink, calculations scribbled in the margins. On one of the insurance policies, someone had written, "Beneficiary, Andre Ashford, amount, $500,000, double indemnity for accidental death." On the deed for my beach house in Hilton Head, it said, "Market value, $12 million, immediate sale after." On my will, the words "universal heir, no restrictions, liquid in 90 days" were circled. I felt like I could not breathe. This could not be happening. I pulled the USB drive out and plugged it into my laptop. There was a single folder named Evidence Do Not Delete. Inside were 12 audio files, numbered by date. The oldest was from 3 months ago. The most recent was from yesterday. I double-clicked the first file. I heard static for a few seconds, and then, as clear as day, Tasha's voice came through. "I'm tired of waiting, Andre. Your father is perfectly healthy. He could live another 20 years. We are never going to be able to live our lives if we keep depending on when he feels like giving us a handout." My son's voice replied, "I know, baby, but I can't just ask him to hand over everything now. He'll get suspicious." "I'm not asking you to ask him," she snapped. "I'm telling you there are other ways to speed things up." I stopped the audio. My eyes filled with tears. It could not be true. I had to get up, pace around the room, and just breathe. But my son's voice kept echoing in my head. That coldness, that indifference. I sat back down and played the second file. Date, 2.5 months ago. Andre was speaking. "I looked into the insurance. If something happens to him accidentally, the payout doubles. We are looking at over $8 million just in policies, plus the sale of the properties and the cash in the accounts. We are talking about nearly $30 million total. Tasha responded, "And how would we make it look like an accident?" "There are ways. He's an older man. He could fall down the stairs. He could have a mishap while driving his truck. He could get his medications mixed up." "Andre, you are starting to scare me. Are you serious? You were the one who said we needed to speed things up." There was a long pause. Then Tasha's voice, lower this time. "It has to look natural. No one can suspect a thing." I stopped the audio and vomited into the trash can next to my desk. My body was doubled over. I could not process what I had just heard. My son, my only son, the boy I gave everything to. He was calculating how to make me die. I wiped my mouth with a handkerchief and forced myself to keep listening. I needed to know how far this went. I played the third file. It was Tasha talking to someone else, a woman's voice I did not recognize. "Yes, he's 62. How hard would it be to get something that looks like a natural heart attack?" Tasha asked. The other woman replied, "It depends. Does he have a family history? His wife died of heart failure 11 years ago. Perfect. That makes it easier. There are substances that can induce cardiac arrest without leaving a trace. But they are expensive, and you need direct access to him, to his food, his drinks." "I have access," Tasha said. "We go to his house all the time." "Is your husband on board with this?" "Completely. It was his idea. Honestly, we are desperate. We need that money now." I gripped the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles turned white. Tasha was not just agreeing. She was actively making it happen. And that other woman was giving her instructions. I looked at the clock. It was 7:15. In less than 2 hours, Andre and Tasha would be at my door with God knows what intentions. The note from the stranger said, "Record everything that happens tonight." I got up and searched my desk drawer for a small digital recorder I used for dictating work notes. I checked the batteries. It worked perfectly. I slid it into my shirt pocket. Then I took my phone and set the voice memo app to trigger with a single tap. I kept listening to the files, the fourth, fifth, sixth, each one worse than the last. They discussed different scenarios. A fall in my house, a tampering with the brakes on my truck, altering the dose of my blood pressure meds. In the seventh file, dated 3 weeks ago, Andre said, "I talked to the lawyer, Mr. Dillard. I asked him hypothetically how long it takes to settle an estate when there is a single heir and everything is in order." "And what did he say?" Tasha asked. "Between 60 and 90 days, 3 months max if there are no legal hurdles. Then it is settled. We do it next month." My heart was thumping so loud I could hear it in my ears. Next month was now. It was the end of the month. I stood up and paced, trying to stay calm. My instinct told me to run, to get to a hotel, but my rational mind told me I needed more evidence. I needed them to confess it right in front of me, recorded and undeniable. The eighth file was from a week ago. Tasha said, "I got the pills. My contact gave them to me yesterday. She says 3 dissolved, drink is enough. It causes a heart attack in less than 2 hours. It looks completely natural. Especially with his family history." "Andre, are you sure they leave no trace?" That is what she promised. "But we have to do it right. No nerves, no overacting afterward. Just the normal grief of a son losing his father." "When?" "This week. We'll use the lunch on Thursday. After lunch, we tell him we want to come over to talk about something important. We get there at night. We fix him a tea or a coffee while we chat. and we wait. And if anyone suspects, no one will. He is 62. His wife died of her heart. He has high blood pressure. It will be an open and shut case. I stopped the audio. Today was Thursday. Everything was set for tonight. I poured myself a double whiskey and drank it in one go. I needed to think. I had the evidence. But what was I going to do? Call the police? Confront them? Then I remembered the note. You are not alone. Someone else knew. Someone informed enough to record these private conversations. Who was that woman? How did she get these tapes? I didn't have time to solve that. I grabbed my phone and called my lawyer, Mr. Abernathy, a man I had trusted for 20 years. Marcus, what's going on? It's late, he said. Abernathy, I need you at my house right now. It is urgent. And bring someone from your team who can act as a witness. Are you okay? Did something happen? I'm going to be fine, but I need you here at 9:30, not a minute before, exactly 9:30, and walk in without knocking. Use that emergency key I gave you. Do you still have it? Yes, I have it. But Marcus, you are starting to worry me. It will all make sense when you get here. Just trust me, 9:30. And don't forget the witnesses. I hung up before he could ask more questions. Then I called an old friend, Chief Holloway, a retired high-ranking officer who still had pull in the department. Holloway, I need a massive favor. Can you get 2 plainclothes investigators to my house around 10 tonight? This isn't a joke. I have evidence of a serious crime, and I need them to witness it. What kind of crime, Marcus? Attempted murder against me. There was a long silence. Are you in danger right now? I will be in a few minutes. That is why I need them to arrive after, so they catch them in the act. I need this documented. This sounds dangerous, Marcus. It might be better to get you out of there. I can't. I need this on the record. Please, just send them and tell them to bring recording equipment. Video, audio, everything. I'll send you 2 of the best. They'll be there at 10. I hung up and took a deep breath. The pieces were in place. Now, I just had to survive the next 90 minutes. I went down to the kitchen and set everything up. Like a normal night, I took out tea mugs, put the kettle on, and put some cookies on a plate. I had to make it look natural. They couldn't suspect I knew anything. At exactly 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I walked to the door with a steady pace, even though my heart felt like it was going to explode. I opened it. Andre and Tasha were standing there, smiling. Andre held a small paper bag. Hey, Pop, we brought some of those pastries you like from that bakery over on South Boulevard. How thoughtful. Come in, come in. They walked into the living room. Tasha was carrying a large designer handbag. They sat on the sofa, and I sat in my armchair across from them. You want some tea? I've got the water hot, I offered. That would be perfect, Tasha said, with that smile that now looked like the fakest thing in the world. I went to the kitchen. While I was fixing the tea, I discreetly activated the recorder on my phone and left it on the counter, hidden behind the sugar jar, but with the microphone pointing toward the living room. Then I touched the recorder in my shirt pocket to make sure it was rolling. I returned to the living room with 3 mugs of tea. I gave them theirs and sat down with mine. So, son, you said you wanted to talk about something important. Andre and Tasha looked at each other. She gave him a small nod. Pop, it's about your health, Andre started. My health? I feel great. We believe you, but we've noticed you've been different lately. More tired and a little forgetful. And with your age and Mom's history, your mother had a congenital condition. I don't have any of that. Even so, Marcus, Tasha chimed in, we are worried. We talked to a cardiologist friend, and she said at your age, you should be getting more frequent checkups. You are the most important person in our lives. We don't want anything to happen to you. I looked at both of them. They were acting so well, so convincing. If I hadn't heard those recordings, I probably would have believed their concern. I appreciate you caring, but I had my labs done 2 months ago, and everything was perfect. Blood work doesn't catch everything, Pop. We're talking about an EKG, a stress test. Why are you so resistant? Andre leaned forward. Pop, last week I saw you in the company parking lot, and it took you 5 minutes just to remember where you parked your truck. And the other day, you called me thinking it was Tuesday when it was Thursday. A lie, and none of that had happened. He was inventing symptoms to justify what was coming. I don't remember that. Exactly. You don't remember. No, that's part of the problem. Tasha put her hand on mine. Marcus, we don't want to scare you. We just want you to be okay, to live many more years. What an irony. What a terrible, sick irony. To hear those words from someone who was planning the exact opposite. Fine. I'll make an appointment with my doctor next week, I said, playing along. Great, Andre said, relaxing a bit. That makes us feel better. I took a sip of my tea. They hadn't touched theirs. Aren't you going to drink your tea? I asked. Yeah, in a minute, Tasha said. But she didn't. There was an uncomfortable silence. I waited for them to say more, to reveal their true intent, but they just sat there glancing at each other. Then Andre stood up. Pop, mind if I use your restroom? Sure. You know where it is? Andre went upstairs. Tasha and I were left alone. She reached into her bag and pulled out some tissues, her phone, a pen, normal casual movements. But I was watching her every move. Then, with a sudden fluid motion, she pulled out a small, clear plastic vial. She uncapped it and poured the contents into my tea mug while looking me directly in the eyes. I sat there, paralyzed, not out of fear, but out of the sheer shock of witnessing exactly what the recordings had foretold. What did you just put in my tea? I asked, my voice steady and cold. Tasha froze. The vial was still in her hand. It's nothing. It's just what, Tasha? Poison? Pills to give me a heart attack. She turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus. No? Then you won't mind if I call the police right now to have them test this tea. I pulled out my phone. She jumped up and tried to grab it. No! Wait! Let me explain. At that moment, Andre came running down the stairs. What's going on? Why are you shouting? Your wife just spiked my drink, and you knew about it. Andre went silent. His face shifted from confusion to pure panic. Pop, this isn't what it looks like. Isn't it? Because what it looks like is that you two have been planning for months how to make it look like I had a heart attack so you could get your hands on my money. Tasha started to cry. Marcus, please, let us explain. Explain what? Explain how you were going to fake grief at my funeral while you collected the insurance? Explain how you were going to dismantle the company it took me 40 years to build. Andre turned white. How do you know all that? I know everything, Andre. Every conversation, every plan, every detail of what you were going to do tonight. Tasha stopped crying. Her expression shifted from pleading to something much colder. You spied on us. Someone warned me, and I have proof of everything. Andre took a step toward me. His expression was no longer that of a scared son. It was the look of someone cornered and dangerous. Pop, give me that phone. Now. No! I said give me the phone, he yelled, lunging at me. We scrambled. I am 62, but I am still strong. I pushed him back and he fell against the coffee table. Tasha ran toward the kitchen. I heard drawers slamming. She came back out with a kitchen knife in her hand. Marcus, give me the phone or this is going to get real ugly, she said in a voice I had never heard from her. Cold, threatening. Now what? You're going to stab me? Is that going to look like an accident, too? Andre got up from the floor. He had a cut on his brow from hitting the table. He looked at me with a hatred I had never seen. This is your fault, Pop. If you had just given us the money when we asked, none of this would be happening. You never asked for money, Andre. I gave you everything. A house, a job, opportunities. What more did you want? I wanted my life. I wanted to not have to wait for you to die, to live the way I deserve. Those words hurt worse than any physical blow. Natasha advanced toward me with the knife. I backed up against the wall. Don't come any closer, I warned. Or what? You're going to report us? We're family. No one is going to believe you. At that exact moment, the doorbell rang. We all froze. Don't open it, Andre hissed. The bell rang again. Then we heard the lock turning. Someone was opening it with a key. The door swung open, and Mr. Abernathy walked in with 2 other people carrying cameras and recording gear. Behind them were the 2 plainclothes investigators in their official windbreakers. Andre and Tasha stood there, petrified. Good evening, one of the investigators said. State Bureau of Investigation. We received a report of attempted homicide at this address. Tasha dropped the knife. It hit the hardwood floor with a metallic clatter. This is a misunderstanding, Andre stammered. Abernathy spoke up. We have been recording the last 15 minutes from outside with directional mics. We have video and the audio of everything that happened in this room. One of the agents walked over to the table and picked up my mug with gloved hands. This is going straight to the lab. If it contains what we suspect, you 2 are facing very serious charges. I looked at my son. There were tears in his eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, frustration that he had been caught. Pop, please, don't do this. I'm your son. That is why it hurts so much, I said, my voice breaking. Because you are my son, and you were willing to do anything just to make me stop existing. The agents handcuffed both of them. They read them their rights, while Tasha screamed that it was unfair, that I had provoked them, that it was all a lie. Abernathy came over to me. Are you okay, Marcus? Physically, yes. As for everything else, I don't know if I'll ever be okay again. We have enough evidence. The recordings you messaged me while we were on our way, the video from tonight, the agent's testimony, the lab analysis. They are going to prison. They were led out of my house in cuffs. Andre looked back at me one last time before stepping out. There was no remorse in his eyes, only resentment. When they were gone, I collapsed into my chair. The lawyer and the techs gathered the evidence, took photos, and documented every detail. I was left alone in my living room. In the house I built with love, surrounded by photos of my family, my late wife, my son as a child, happy moments that now felt like a lie. I cried for the first time in years. Not out of fear, not because of the danger I had been in. I cried for the betrayal. To find out that the son I gave everything to didn't see me as a father, but as an obstacle between him and a bank account. It was nearly 11 o'clock when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Marcus Ashford, the woman's voice said. The one from the coffee shop. Yes. Who are you? Someone who knew what they were planning and couldn't let it happen. I'm glad you're safe. How did you get those recordings? That doesn't matter now. What matters is that you're alive, and they are going to pay for what they tried to do. Why did you help me? You don't even know me." There was a long silence. "Yes, I know you, Marcus. Better than you can imagine. But that is a story for another day. Take care of yourself, and don't be so quick to trust people, not even family." She hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at the screen. Who was that woman? How had she recorded private conversations between Andre and Tasha? I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in the living room thinking about everything, the signs I missed, the moments I could have noticed something was wrong. The next day, investigators from the district attorney's office came to take my official statement. I handed over everything. The USB drive, the marked documents, the recordings from my phone. Abernathy called me in the afternoon. "Marcus, the lab analyzed the tea. It was digitalis in a lethal dose. It's a substance that causes cardiac arrest and is very hard to detect in autopsies, especially if the person has a family history of heart issues." "Where did they get something like that?" "They're looking into it. Tasha has a cousin who works at a hospital. It likely came from there." "What's going to happen to them?" "They're going to be prosecuted for attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, and fraud. We also found they had already forged some of your documents to access your accounts after. How much time are they looking at?" "Between 25 and 40 years each." I hung up and looked out the window of my study. My son was going to spend the rest of his life in prison for wanting me dead. The following days were a whirlwind of statements, interviews, and paperwork. The news hit the local papers. Charlotte businessman saves life thanks to anonymous tip. Son and daughter-in-law face murder charges. My friends called me in disbelief. My business partners didn't know what to say. Some of my employees cried when they found out. Andre was well known at the company, and many liked him, but I knew the truth. A week after the arrest, I got a call from the Central Prison in Raleigh. Andre wanted to see me. He had requested a visit. My first instinct was to say no. I didn't want to see his face. I didn't want to hear his excuses. But Abernathy convinced me. "Marcus, it might be important. Maybe he wants to confess more. Maybe there are more people involved. Go, but bring witnesses. Let it all be recorded." I agreed. 3 days later, on a Tuesday afternoon, I arrived at the correctional facility, accompanied by Abernathy. The intake process was humiliating. Searches, metal detectors, being treated like I was the criminal. We were led to a visiting room with gray walls and a metal table bolted to the floor and 2 chairs on each side, all watched by cameras and guards. We waited 10 minutes. Then they brought Andre in. I almost didn't recognize him. In just 1 week, he had lost weight. He had dark circles under his eyes and a few days' worth of beard. The beige prison uniform was too big for him. But what hit me most was his gaze. The hatred was gone. There was something worse. Emptiness. He sat across from me and didn't say anything for a full minute. "Pop," he finally spoke. His voice was raspy, tired, and, "Andre? Thanks for coming. The lawyer convinced me. I'm not here as your father. I'm here as the victim of a murder plot who wants to understand why." He ran his handcuffed hands over his face. "I don't expect you to understand. I don't even understand myself. Try. Because I need to know at what point my son became someone capable of planning my death." Andre looked down at the table. "How much do you know?" "Everything. I have 3 months of recordings of you and Tasha. I know about the pills, the insurance, the plans to sell the company. I know you've been planning this for months." He closed his eyes. "How did you get those tapes?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that they exist, and there are enough to keep you in prison for decades." "It was Tasha's idea," he said suddenly. "All of it. She put those thoughts in my head. Don't give me that, Andre. I heard your voice on those tapes. You were the one looking for methods. You were the one calculating the payout. You were the one planning to sell my company because you were desperate. I was desperate because I've spent years feeling trapped, he yelled. A guard stepped about toward us. Andre lowered his voice. Working in your company? Living in your shadow, waiting for your approval for everything. You gave me a title, a great salary, a house. Yes, I gave you all that. But I never let you make real decisions. Every time I proposed something at the firm, you vetoed it. Every time I wanted to make changes, you said no. You kept me there like an employee, not like a successor. Because some of your ideas were reckless, Andre. You wanted to expand too fast, take on unnecessary debt. I wanted to grow the business prudently. That takes decades. I didn't want to wait decades. I wanted to live now. And living now meant killing me. He went quiet. Answer me, Andre. At what point did you think murdering your own father was an acceptable solution? I don't know, he whispered. Tasha started talking about it 6 months ago. At first, I thought she was crazy. I told her no, but she kept at it. She'd say you could live another 20 years, and by the time I inherited, I'd be an old man too. That our lives were passing us by. And you listened to her. At first I didn't, but then I started thinking about it, calculating it, and little by little, it stopped seeming so impossible. It started to seem feasible. I felt nauseous hearing him speak with such coldness. Feasible. That's what you call planning your father's murder. I never used that word. In my head, it wasn't murder. It was just accelerating the inevitable. You were going to die eventually. You just wanted to move up my death date by 20 years. That's what you're telling me. Andre started to cry, silent tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Pop. I know it doesn't mean anything. I know what I did is unforgivable. But I'm sorry. What are you sorry for, Andre? Sorry that you tried to kill me? Or sorry that you got caught? Because if I hadn't found out, right now, I'd be dead and buried. And you'd be collecting the checks and selling off the business I spent 40 years building. I know. And Tasha? Is she sorry too? Andre shook his head. Tasha says you set us up. That you recorded us illegally. That you manipulated everything to make us look bad. Make you look bad. She poured poison into my cup. I saw it. The agents saw it. The lab confirmed it. She says you put it there, that it's a frame-up. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And do you believe her? No. I know what we did. But she won't accept responsibility. She says she's going to fight the case, hire the best lawyers. With what money? You have nothing. Her parents sold their house in Atlanta. They're going to use that money to hire some high-profile lawyer from D.C. I leaned back. This is going to be a media circus. Probably. Tasha's lawyer is already giving interviews. He says you're a controlling man who invented all this because you didn't want Andre to have his own life. And people are going to believe that? Andre shrugged. I don't know. Some will. He has good arguments. He says the recordings were obtained illegally and can't be used as evidence. Abernathy intervened for the first time. Those recordings were obtained by a third party who voluntarily gave them to your father. They are perfectly legal. And even if they weren't, we have the video from the night of the incident. We have the lab analysis. We have text messages between Tasha and her contact at the hospital. There is more than enough evidence. Andre looked at him. They found the messages? All of them. Tasha wasn't very careful about wiping her digital footprint. My son sank into his chair. Then there's no way out. No, Abernathy said firmly. There isn't. We stayed in silence for several minutes. Why did you want to see me? I finally asked. Andre took a deep breath. Because there's something else you need to know. I felt a chill. What? It wasn't just the two of us. There was someone else helping us. I leaned forward. Who? The company accountant, Randall Vance. I couldn't believe it. Randall had been with me for 15 years. He was one of my most trusted employees. Randall? What does he have to do with this? He's the one who helped us audit your finances. He gave us access to confidential company info, told us exactly what everything was worth, and was going to help us transfer the money once I was dead. And what was he getting out of this? We promised him 10% of everything, nearly $3 million. Abernathy was already taking notes. Do you have proof of his involvement? Messages? Emails? There's a burner Gmail account we created to communicate. It's called Future Project 2024. The password is Charlotte123. Everything is in there. Abernathy left the room to make some calls. Andre and I were left alone with the guard. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because Randall is still free. He's still working at your company. He still has access to your information. And now that we're down, he might try something on his own. Are you telling me I'm still in danger? I don't know, but Randall is smart, and he's greedy. If he sees an opening, he'll take it. I stood up. I needed to get out of there. Is there anyone else involved that I should know about? Andre shook his head. Just the three of us. And the woman from the cafe, the one who left you the blue box. Do you have any idea who she is? No? When the agents interrogated us, they asked the same thing. Tasha and I didn't know someone was recording us. We didn't know anyone else was on to our plans. Someone knew, and they saved my life. Maybe it was Randall. Maybe he got cold feet and decided to warn you. Why would he do that? I don't know, Pop. I don't understand anything anymore. Abernathy returned. Marcus, we have to go. I'm contacting the DA immediately with this new information. I stood up and looked at Andre one last time. Anything else you want to say? Just that I really am sorry. I know it doesn't help. I know you'll probably never forgive me. But I want you to know that a part of me, the part that is still your son, really does regret all of it. The part that was my son died the day he decided my life was worth less than a bank account. I walked out of the room without looking back. In the prison parking lot, Abernathy and I got into his car. Do you think he's telling the truth about Randall? He asked. I don't know, but we can't take the risk. I need you to investigate everything about him, now. I've already sent the info for that email account to the DA. They'll get a warrant to access it. In the meantime, what do you want to do with Randall? Nothing yet. If I confront him and he's involved, he could destroy evidence. If I fire him, he might do something desperate. We need to catch him red-handed, just like Andre and Tasha. And if Andre is lying, what if he just wants to hurt Randall for some reason? Then Randall will have nothing to hide, and everything will go on as normal. But if it's true, we need proof. We drove back to my house. On the way, I called my personal assistant, Dillard, who had been with me for 10 years and was completely trustworthy. Dillard, I need you to do something discreetly. Review all the financial moves from the last 6 months. Anything unusual, any strange transfers, any document that looks out of place. Did something happen, Mr. Ashford? Possibly, but I need you to be very quiet about it. Don't tell anyone what you're looking for, especially not Randall. Understood. I'll have a report for you in 2 days. I hung up and looked out the car window. The streets of Charlotte passed by fast. My city, my home. The place where I built everything. And now I was discovering that betrayal was coming from all sides. We got to my house. Abernathy stayed for a while, reviewing documents in my study, while I poured myself a whiskey. "Marcus, I found something," he called from the second floor. I ran up. He had his laptop open. The DA already accessed that email account Andre mentioned. "Look at this." He showed me the screen. There were dozens of emails between 3 users: ASN, Andre; VM, Tasha, Veronica was her middle name; and RV, Randall Vance. I started reading. My stomach turned with every line. An email from RV to ASN dated 4 months ago. "I reviewed everything like you asked. Your father has liquid assets of 18 million. Properties worth another 25 million. The company is valued between 35 and 40 million, according to a recent appraisal. Estimated total, $80 million. If you liquidate everything fast, you can pull about 65 million clear. My cut would be 6.5 million. Do we proceed?" Response from ASN: "We proceed. VM is already working on getting what we need. She figures by the end of next month it will be ready." Another email from RV, dated 2 months ago. "I need you to confirm something. Is the plan still to make it look natural? Because if so, I have to prepare documentation to justify all the subsequent moves. I need time." Response from ASN: "It will be completely natural. No one will suspect a thing. You just have the paperwork ready to transfer control of the corporate accounts as soon as ASN has legal power." Another, even more recent email from 2 weeks ago, RV wrote, "Confirmed for Thursday the 18th after the incident. Wait 24 hours. Then ASN goes to the notary with the death certificate and activates the will. I already have the documents ready to liquidate the accounts as soon as you have the legal signatures. Everything can be ready in 72 hours. I felt like I was going to throw up. It wasn't just my son and his wife. It was also an employee I had trusted for 15 years. Someone who knew every detail of my finances. Someone who handled sensitive information for my firm. "There's more," Abernathy said. "Look at this email from a week ago." RV wrote, "I'm getting scared. What if Marcus suspects something? What if he discovers the moves I made in the accounts?" VM replied, "He won't discover a thing. By Friday, it will all be settled. Keep calm." "What moves did he make in the accounts?" I asked. Abernathy kept searching. "Here, look, this was an email from 3 months ago where Randall detailed that he had created a mirror bank account where he was diverting small amounts of company money. Nothing too big, between $50,000 and $100,000 a month, just enough so it wouldn't be noticed in the general statements. But in 6 months, it adds up to a lot. I've already accumulated $480,000. That son of a—" I started, clenching my fists. He was stealing from me and planning to steal a lot more. Look at this email. RV to ASN. "Once you have legal control, we are going to liquidate the whole company. I already have interested buyers. We can sell it for $30 million if we act fast before the market hears the ownership changed. Of those 30, my cut would be $3 million, plus the 6.5 we already agreed on. Total, $9.5 million for me." I couldn't believe it. They weren't just planning to kill me. They were planning to dismantle in weeks what had taken me 40 years to build. "Abernathy, call the DA. Now. I want Randall arrested tonight." "I already did while you were reading. There's an arrest warrant on the way. They're going to pick him up at his house in less than an hour." I fell back into my desk chair. How many more people were involved? Who could I trust? According to these emails, it was just the 3 of them. but we are going to do a deep dive into all your key employees. We can't leave any loose ends. My phone rang. It was Dillard. Mr. Ashford, I found something weird. There are monthly transfers to an account I don't recognize, always the last Friday of every month. Variable amounts between $50,000 and $120,000. It's Randall. We already know. Anything else? Yes, there are documents that were modified recently, specifically the power of attorney and the beneficiary designations on some accounts. What kind of modifications? Someone added Andre's name as authorized on accounts where he wasn't before and changed some beneficiary designations. When were those changes made? 2 months ago, but the signatures are forgeries. I know your signature, Mr. Ashford, and these aren't yours. Keep all of that. The DA is going to nichon it. I hung up and looked at Abernathy. Forgery, fraud, theft, conspiracy to commit homicide. How many charges was that? Enough to make sure all 3 of them spend the rest of their lives in prison. I couldn't sleep that night either. I stayed in my study reviewing documents, statements, emails, trying to find some signal I had overlooked. At 11 o'clock, I got a call from the DA's office. They had arrested Randall Vance at his home. At first, he denied everything. But when they showed him the emails, he crumbled. He confessed to his participation, the theft, the forgeries, and he confessed one more thing. He says there's a 4th person involved, the investigator told me. Who? I asked. Tasha's brother, a man named Darnell Banks, living in Atlanta. He was the one who got the substances they were going to use. He works as a paramedic and has access to controlled meds. They've already located him. They're coordinating with the Georgia authorities. They'll arrest him tomorrow morning. I hung up. 4 people. 4 people conspiring to end my life. I poured another whiskey and sat in my study. From there, I could see the photos on the walls. My wife, Ayesha, smiling, Andre as a kid on my shoulders. Photos of the company in its early days. Happy moments that were now contaminated with betrayal. I thought about the woman in the cafe, the stranger who saved my life. Who was she? How did she know? Why did she help me? I took my phone and looked for the number she had called me from. I dialed it. It rang several times, but no one answered. I was about to hang up when I heard a click. Hello, Marcus, the female voice said. I need to know who you are. I already told you. Someone who couldn't let that happen. That's not enough. You had recordings of private conversations. You knew every detail of the plan. Who are you? A long silence. Do you really want to know? Yes. Fine. We'll meet tomorrow at the same coffee shop where I gave you the box. 3 in the afternoon. Come alone. How do I know I can trust you? Because you already trusted me when you opened that box and it saved your life. She hung up. I stared at the phone. Should I go? Was it safe? But curiosity was stronger than fear. I needed answers. The next day, I arrived at Liberty Coffee House 15 minutes early. I sat at a different table than the previous time. I ordered a coffee that I didn't drink. At exactly 3 o'clock, she walked in. I recognized her immediately. Though she was dressed more casually now, in jeans and a white blouse. It was the same woman from the gray suit. She sat across from me without asking. Thanks for coming, she said. Who are you? She took a deep breath. My name is Sloan Whitlock. I'm a private investigator. Someone hired me 4 months ago to watch your son and his wife. Who hired you? Your wife. I froze. My wife is dead. I know. She hired me 3 weeks before she died. Sloane's words hit me like a punch to the gut. Ayesha. My wife, Ayesha. Hired you? Yes. In February, 11 years ago, 3 weeks before her passing. That's impossible. Ayesha died of a sudden heart attack. She didn't know she was going to die. Sloan pulled a folder from her bag and set it on the table. She knew, or at least she suspected. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were medical documents, tests, reports from cardiologists, all with Ayesha's name on them. Advanced dilated cardiomyopathy, I read aloud. Prognosis, guarded. Life expectancy, 6 months to a year. Your wife knew she was dying, Sloan said softly. She had been in treatment for nearly a year, but her condition was worsening. The doctors told her she could suffer a fatal cardiac arrest at any moment, but she never told me anything. She never mentioned she was sick. She didn't want to worry you. And she had another concern, even bigger than her health. What? Sloan pulled out more documents, bank statements, photos, surveillance reports. Your wife suspected that Andre wasn't the person you thought he was. She had seen him behaving strangely, talking on the phone and hanging up when she entered the room, going out at odd hours, spending money he shouldn't have. I looked at the photos. They were of Andre, with different people in bars and restaurants I didn't know. Ayesha hired me to investigate your son. She wanted to know what he was doing. She wanted to make sure you would be okay when she was gone. And what did you find? At that time, 11 years ago, Andre had gambling debts. He was betting in underground clubs. He owed nearly $500,000 to some very dangerous people. Your wife found out when she checked his bank statements. There were large withdrawals that had no explanation. I couldn't believe it. Andre had a gambling problem? Yes, and his mother confronted him. There's a recording of that conversation. Sloan pulled out her phone and played an audio file. I heard Ayesha's voice, weak but firm. Andre, I know about the debts. I know about the club. And I know you've been asking your father for money, lying about why you need it. Andre's voice, younger. But already with that cold tone I now knew, responded, Mom, it's not what you think. It was just bad luck. I'm going to fix it. How? By asking for more money? By lying more? Son, this has to stop. I'm going to tell your father. No. Please, Mom, I'm begging you. Wait. Pop wouldn't understand. He'd kick me out of the firm. Let me handle it. Andre, I'm sick. I'm going to die soon, and I can't go in peace, knowing you're going to hurt your father. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I just need time. Promise me you're going to change. Promise me you're going to be the son your father thinks you are. I promise, Mom. I promise. Sloan stopped the audio. That conversation was 2 weeks before Ayesha died. Tears were streaming down my face. She knew Andre was like that. And she never told me. She wanted to give her son a chance. She wanted to believe he could change. But she gave me very clear instructions. If anything happened to her, I was to keep watching Andre for the rest of his life, if necessary. And if at any point you were in danger because of him, I was to intervene. Ayesha paid for 11 years of surveillance. She set up a trust, enough money to keep me on retainer for 20 years. She wanted to protect you, even after she was gone. I covered my face with my hands. Ayesha, my wife, the woman I loved, had been looking out for me from the grave. Why did you wait so long? If you knew Andre was dangerous, why didn't you warn me sooner? Because for years, he didn't do anything grave. Yes, he still had money issues. Yes, he lied sometimes, but nothing that put your life in danger, until he met Tasha. What does she have to do with it? She's the one who radicalized Andre. She turned his resentment into a plan. I started noticing changes about a year ago. Strange conversations, internet searches about inheritance, life insurance, toxic substances. I tapped their phones, recorded everything. And when I discovered they were planning to kill you, I knew I had to act. Why didn't you go straight to the police? Because I needed solid evidence. If I went to the police without airtight proof, Andre and Tasha would just deny everything. They'd say I was making things up. I needed them to incriminate themselves. That's why I gave the recordings to you, so you could confront them and get a direct confession. They almost killed me. I knew they wouldn't. I had people watching your house that night. If things had spiraled out of control, they would have stepped it sooner. The lawyer and the police didn't arrive by chance. I coordinated them. It was all calculated. I leaned back, overwhelmed by all the information. So, Ayesha knew our son was capable of this. She didn't know for sure, but she feared it. That's why she hired me. That's why she asked me to watch him. She knew Andre better than anyone. She knew there was something broken inside him. Since when? Sloan hesitated. According to what Ayesha told me, Andre started changing when he was about 17. He became colder, more calculating. Ayesha thought it was just teenage angst. But then she noticed little things, unnecessary lies, manipulations, a lack of empathy toward others. Why did she never tell me? Because you loved your son unconditionally, and she didn't want to destroy that relationship. She preferred to handle it herself, to protect you in silence. I cried there in the cafe. I cried for Ayesha, for her having carried that weight alone, for having died knowing her son was a danger to me. Sloan put her hand on mine. She loved you very much, Marcus. Everything she did was out of love. She wanted you to live a quiet life, without suspicions, without fears. And she tasked me with making sure it stayed that way. And now what? Is your job done? No. The trust is still active, and as long as I live, I'm going to keep watching to make sure you're safe. From what? Andre is in prison. Tasha too. Randall was arrested. But the world is full of people who might want to take advantage of you. Employees, partners, new people who enter your life. My job is to make sure no one ever hurts you again. We stayed in silence for several minutes. The coffee shop was almost empty. Outside it was getting dark. Can I ask you something? I finally said. Anything. Did Ayesha know she was going to die that specific day? Sloan shook her head. No. Her cardiac arrest was sudden, though expected. She died at home in the afternoon while preparing dinner. Do you remember? How could I forget? I came home from work and found her on the kitchen floor. Do you know what she was making? She was making my favorite meal, smothered chicken and collard greens. She always made it when she wanted to celebrate something. Sloan pulled out another document, a handwritten note in Ayesha's script. I found this in her belongings when I processed her file after her death. It was dated the same day she passed. I read the note. It said, Marcus, my love, if you are reading this, it's because I'm no longer with you. I want you to know that every day by your side was a gift, that I loved you from the first moment, and I will go on loving you for all eternity. Take care of yourself. Trust Sloan. She's going to protect you when I no longer can. And about Andre, forgive him if you can. He's our son. Something went wrong in him, but he's still our son. I love you, Ayesha. Tears fell on the paper. Ayesha knew that could be her last day. That's why she made my favorite meal. That's why she left that note. Where was this? I asked. Inside the folder, where she kept my contact info. She wanted to make sure if anything happened, I'd get it to you at the right time. And why only now? Because she specified you should only read it if Andre really represented a danger to you. If that never happened, the note was to be destroyed. But now you needed to know the whole truth. I folded the note carefully and put it in my shirt pocket, right over my heart. Thank you, Sloan, for everything. For watching over me, for keeping the promise you made to Ayesha. It is my honor. She was a great woman. We said goodbye at the door of the cafe. Sloan gave me a card with her number. Call me if you need anything, at any hour. I'll always be available for you. I drove home slowly, processing everything I had discovered. Ayesha, my sweet Ayesha. She had been stronger and wiser than I ever imagined. The following days were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. The trial against Andre, Tasha, Randall, and Darnell began 3 months later. It was a long, painful, public process. The media covered every detail. Millionaire son tries to murder business mogul father. The headlines were sensationalist, the interviews invasive. I had to testify 7 times. I relived every moment of that night over and over. Tasha's lawyer tried to discredit the evidence. He argued the recordings were illegal, that I had manipulated Andre, that it was all a frame-up. But the DA had too much proof. The recordings, the emails, the lab analysis confirming the digitalis, the confessions from Randall, the messages between Darnell and Tasha coordinating the purchase of the substances. The trial lasted 8 months. It was exhausting. There were moments where I thought about dropping the charges, moments where the pain of seeing my son in a prison uniform was too much. But then, I would remember that night. I'd remember the coldness in his eyes. I'd remember the recordings where they calculated how much money they'd get when I was dead. The verdict came on a Tuesday in November. The room was full. Press, curious onlookers, some of my employees who wanted to support me. The judge read the sentence. Andre Ashford, guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, fraud and forgery. Sentence 32 years in prison, without the possibility of early release. Tasha Ashford, guilty of attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy and fraud. Sentence 35 years in prison. Randall Vance, guilty of conspiracy, fraud, theft, and forgery. Sentence 28 years in prison. Darnell Banks, guilty of provision of controlled substances with criminal intent and conspiracy, sentenced 20 years in prison. I listened to the sentence without showing any emotion. Inside, I felt a massive void. Andre cried when he heard the 32 years. Tasha screamed that it was unfair. They were led out of the room by force. I left the courthouse surrounded by reporters. I didn't give a statement. I just got in my car and went home. That night, I sat in my study with Ayesha's note in my hands. Forgive him if you can. Could I forgive someone who planned my death? Someone who saw me as an obstacle instead of a father? I didn't know. Maybe one day. Maybe never. But what I did know was that I had to keep living. Not for me, but for Ayesha, to honor her memory and her sacrifice. I completely reorganized the company. I fired several key employees and hired external auditors to review every document, every account, every transaction. From the last 10 years, we discovered more fraud. Randall hadn't been the only one. There were others stealing small amounts, taking advantage of my blind trust. I implemented new systems of control, monthly audits, double verification on all important transactions. I could no longer afford to trust blindly. Dillard, my assistant, became my right hand. He was the one who helped clean the company of all corrupt elements, who worked days and nights to restore order. Mr. Ashford, he said to me one day, you didn't deserve what happened to you, but I admire how you've handled it. Many would have crumbled. I almost did, I confessed. But I have someone up there who won't let me give up. Months passed. The first year after the trial was the hardest. I learned to live with the absence of a son who was technically still alive, but dead to me. Some people criticized me. He's your son. You should visit him. You should forgive him. But they hadn't heard those recordings. They hadn't seen the coldness in his eyes when he planned my death. Sloan kept her promise. Every month, she sent me a security report. She investigated every new person who entered my inner circle. She verified backgrounds, contacts, motivations. Better safe than sorry, she always told me. And she was right. 2 years after the trial, I got a letter. It was from Andre. I held it in my hands for a week without opening it. Finally, on a Sunday afternoon, I worked up the courage. Pop, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to understand. I just want you to know that I've had a lot of time to think, to understand the magnitude of what I did. In here, I've met people who committed terrible crimes, and I realized I'm just like them. I let ambition and resentment destroy the only good thing I had in my life, your love. I was a terrible son, a terrible human being, and I deserve every day of these 32 years. If one day, many years in the future, you find a little forgiveness in your heart, it would be more than I deserve. I love you, Pop. I always did, even if it didn't look like it. Andre. I read the letter 3 times. I cried, not because I forgave him, but because I recognized that a part of me would always love the boy he used to be, the son I thought I had. But that son had died long ago, and the man who wrote that letter was a stranger who happened to look like him. I tucked the letter in a drawer. I didn't reply. Maybe one day I will. Maybe not. Today, I am 67 years old. It has been 5 years since that night I almost lost my life. My company is still running, stronger, and more transparent than ever. I surround myself with people I trust, but always with caution. Sloan is still watching, still protecting. I visit Aisha's grave every Sunday. I talk to her. I tell her how things are going. I thank her for having watched over me even after her death. And I have learned something valuable, that family isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stay by your side when everything falls apart. Dillard, who became the son I never truly had. Sloan, who faithfully keeps a promise made 13 years ago. My friends from the neighborhood center who were with me through every court hearing, they are my family. Now, if you ask me if I've forgiven Andre, the answer is complicated. A part of me understands that there was something broken in him a long time ago, something that neither Aisha nor I knew how to fix. But another part of me, the part that felt the poison being poured into my mug, that heard those recordings calculating my death, that part still can't forgive, and maybe it never will. What I can say is this: if you are listening to this story, and you are an older person like me, take care of yourselves. Don't trust blindly. Not even your own family. Protect your assets, your life, your well-being. And if you have children, observe them. Really observe them. Don't just see what you want to see. See the reality. Because sometimes the people we love most are the ones who can do us the most harm. Aisha knew it. That's why she protected me from the other side. And I am going to honor her memory by living every day with gratitude, with caution, but also with hope. Because despite everything, despite the betrayal and the pain, I am still here. I am still breathing. I am still moving forward. And that, in itself, is a victory. Thank you for listening to my story. Let it serve as a warning. Let it serve as a lesson. Take care of yourselves. And remember, money can change people, but it can also reveal who they always were. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen so you can choose what to watch next.